As soon as I open it, roaches. To where when I walked in the house,
did you scream?
You don't know my life, bro.
Welcome back to Econics Talks, guys.
When I pop up, everybody gonna be like, man, overnight success.
Lifestyle topics, entrepreneurship, and investing.
Are you serious about this? Because if you are, then I'm willing to back the business.
We want to inform you, educate you, and empower you so that you can maximize your life. Let's get started. What's up, everybody? I want to give a huge shout out to all the new supporters that have joined us this year, and I can never forget my day one, so shout out to y'all too. As most of you guys know, running an independent podcast takes a ton of time and energy. Now, if you ever benefited from an episode of this show or mini episodes and you'd like to support, you can do that by buying us a coffee. You can reach that by the support link in the show notes, or if you're following me or Econics on Instagram, it'll be in the link in the bio. And this will be used to cover any expenses that come with the show. I appreciate everything you guys have done, and this has been such a fulfilling year. Now, on to this episode. Welcome back to another episode of Econics Talks, guys. Today, I have a really cool guest. It's a friend of mine, mentor, brother. His name is Andrew Ware, also known as Mr. Tampa. He is the CEO of World Class Consulting. So welcome to the podcast. Good to see you.
Hey, man, look, it's good to be here, and let's get it on, baby. Let's make it do what it do.
Let's make it happen. Let's make it happen. So first question is, tell us a little bit about yourself. Obviously, you have a consulting firm, and I'm going to be real with you, brother Ware. There's so many people, when they start their businesses, they list it as a consulting firm, but don't do a damn consulting. They don't do anything, right? So tell me.
Right.
So tell me a little bit about how you got into the consulting space and your business model and how that kind of just grew and now it's taken off.
Yeah, so for 5 years, I worked as a lender for a entity that's called the Tampa Bay Black Business Investment Corp. They provide loans for small businesses that are starting up, okay? Anyone that's from making $75,000, well, perhaps needing a loan for $75,000 up to $225,000, okay? So for 5 years, I covered the entire Tampa market. So how I got my nickname as Mr. Tampa is I said, I don't want to just deal with just small companies. I want to deal with those mature companies that want to perhaps scale their business, want to either buy some other businesses or want to sell everything that they have. So I started asking, what is it that I can do to better your brand? And this is what I discovered. A lot of business owners are so inundated within the day in and day out of what they do, they don't know what they don't know. And I said, you know what? Here's what I'm going to do. After going to so many mixers and networking events, I felt like I was a minority at many of them that was important to me. The ones that are really, really doing quite well, I felt like I was a minority. I wanted to change that concept. I wanted to make sure that we were the majority that looked like me that was in the room. So what I did is I made some phone calls to quite a few corporate America companies. And I said, hey, look, I'm looking for partners. I need sponsors. If you all are really serious about diversity and inclusion, I'm your guy. So I had to do the background check. They do what they do, came back and said, you know what? We can do this. So I had already made my reputation and my name for 5 years as a lender for the Tampa Bay area. I affected over, ready for this?
I'm ready.
I would say in 5 years, I affected probably over 400 businesses.
Wow.
That's a lot.
That's awesome. It is. That's
okay.
A whole lot.
And some of them got their start because of me. They would get turned down from a traditional bank. They would call me and be frustrated. And I was like, let me make a phone call. And then they get a loan. And they's like, oh my God, you're Mr. Tampa. So starting this mixer that I do, the name of it is the CEO Experience, is I wanted people that look like me to experience what it's like to be in the room with someone else that perhaps they don't know that's also a CEO, and get out of the analogy is we're competition, because what happens is a lot of times you're eager and you're on fire, you want to make a difference out here, right? And you'll make these phone calls to some of these individuals that say call them, and the gatekeepers keep you from seeing them, or perhaps their schedule's not in alignment with yours, and you get frustrated and you're like, look, you told me to call you, Josh, and and now I can't reach you. Mm-hmm. So by doing these events, it initially started out being every quarter, every 3 months we would have one. Here of late, though, it's been crazy. Since January, we've done 4 events. That's crazy. So what it's telling me is business owners are hungry for content. Mm-hmm. They're hungry to be around their own, like-minded, and most importantly, we do like each other. Other than what's being said out there in the media, we actually do like each other, man, because when you come to my events, oftentimes they don't want to leave.
That's very true. That's very true. And so how did you learn how to really pack a room? Because one of the things that I can say, because I've hosted some events, I've done a few of them myself, and people think it's a fun thing. It's stressful, man. Events are stressful because you got so many moving parts. And if you don't have a team, or anything can go wrong, and people have no idea. Somebody could literally leave the food, or forgot to pick up the food, or picked it up late. Now everything's off. Some small things like that people don't get about the event space. So now that you're dealing with that, how do you actually pack the room and sell the tickets?
Yeah. So how you pack the room and how you sell the tickets is you have to be authentic, one. People got to know that you have credibility. I've done all these things. Again, I affected well over 400 business owners. So all I got to do is just reach out to 10. That's 100 people. Reach out to another 10. That's 200. So the cool thing about it is you got to be intentional. And every time when you're talking with someone that's out there, you got to make sure that they're getting content and they're getting value. And here's what I learned from some of the ones that's supporting me all the time, that the gentleman that owns the PF Chang's at the international airport, he's worth $350 million. He calls me once a week.
Now, that's a person to have on your Rolodex.
Right. I mean, look, if I don't call him and he don't call me, he calls me and he apologizes for not connecting. Mm-hmm. What happened? So let me put this out there to the universe, everyone that's going to listen to this now and perhaps in the future. If you want to find the absolute best that's out there, remember this: success isn't something that you pursue. Success is really what you attract. So every time you see someone that's doing something you like, instead of asking them to help you, say to them, Josh, what can I do to enhance or grow your brand? Tell me. And then you're going to first laugh because you're not used to someone coming to you, because you're like, okay, so what is it you want? Mm-hmm. Because, if you're coming to me like this, it got to be something that you want. And you just got to be with good intentions, simply saying, hey, let me service you. Because when you give people what they want, they'll give you what you want.
That's right. So my next question to you is, so obviously you have a wealth of experience in the loan industry. So that's giving you a wealth of knowledge as it relates to, Black folks and dealing with just financial literacy. So I can only imagine the things you've seen, but I know we want to definitely break that down today. So tell us a little bit about that. If I was to give you the floor to just kind of open up, and then we'll go from there.
So, when you're starting your business, you're wanting to grow your business. Oftentimes, you're not real sure what credit cards or what tools you really need. You just wanted to grow your business. You want it to do well. And most of us don't even know anything about the ROI. That whole ROI is return on investments, right?
Right.
So here's what I did. Upon going through a relationship with my wife, we decided to part ways. She's my best friend. That's my ride or die. Hey, I love it. We have a beautiful daughter together. Here's what happened. Because, she liked to spend a lot, she had a lot of things she had purchased, and I refused to pay for them. So I had really good credit when we were married. When I decided to leave, listen to this, I had a 595 FICO score.
Wow.
I remember going into the department store and I applied for one of their credit cards and I got denied. I was shocked.
Wow.
I was like, you kidding me? You kidding me? So what I decided to do is for 30 days, I want everyone to do this. I decided to write down the next 30 days, every single thing that I would purchase and got in alignment with all of my transactions. And I discovered some good habits and I discovered some bad habits. And then I decided to apply with some institutions that could give me credit cards. And I found that the best way when you're starting over is to go with the secured credit card. And the institutions you want to start with are the credit unions. Credit unions versus the banks, most banks won't even have a secured credit card available for you. Your credit unions will, and just understand, let me go ahead and define the difference between a credit union and a bank so all of the listeners and the future listeners can get this, because this is important. Let me underscore this. Out of all the things that's most important, this is it. A credit union is designed and equipped to take care of all of their members. Once you become a member of a credit union, all of the rules, all of the regulations, all of the policy, you get a chance to vote on it. Probably perhaps didn't even know that.
Nope, I didn't know
the bank,
that.
you do not. Now, something else. Credit union is designed and operate. It's a nonprofit entity. The banks are for profit. So that being said, 99.9% of the time, you will get a better interest rate with your credit unions.
Yep.
Your community credit unions, which you got Mid-Florida, your other credit unions, Suncoast, Tampa Bay, there's so many others. You're going to get a better interest rate on your credit cards. Now, this is what's important that I want to make sure that everyone understands that I have to underscore. It's simply this. When you're growing your business, you sometimes will have emergencies or something happen that you'll have to come out of pocket. Having that tool or having that other line of credit can negate and keep your business operationally. But most importantly, what most business owners don't do is the reason why you and I are talking today is they don't pay close attention to their margins. You don't pay close attention to your margins. You can go to sunbiz.org, register your business for profit. In 3 to 5 years, it will turn, or perhaps sooner than 3 years, it will turn into a nonprofit without you knowing. Mm-hmm. Because you've not paid attention to those margins, or perhaps you have the wrong credit cards or the wrong tools in order to negate or it work for your business. Because at the end of the day, it's all about ROI. Trust me, it is. So let me say this. I currently have in my wallet a credit union credit card, business credit card at 3.99% interest. That's unheard of.
That's awesome.
Okay? So you got Capital One, you have Wells Fargo, Bank of America, Fifth Third, all the others that's out there. Capital One and some of the others are the highest. They can go as much as 30% interest. Okay. So when we talk about what's in your wallet, you have to simply say, what tool can I get to work for my business so I can have or yield what is called a profit, right?
Right.
Here's what I know for a fact. Right now, today, if you wanted to find the best value, and I'm going to go ahead and give a gem, the highest yield CDs right now is with the credit unions. Some are paying 3.5 and some are paying, you ready for this? 5%. Now,
Wow.
let me share this. Now, when you have your capital or you have funds with the bank, guess how much they're paying you every month? Let me tell you. It's 0001
Nothing.
or 0035. That means, let me translate for all of you all out there that don't understand. It's either 1 penny or 35 cents is the most that you make. And then when you decide to get a credit card with them, you're going to pay 16, 22 to 25%. That's not good ROI, my brother. That's why we're having this conversation.
Yeah.
You can go directly right now with a credit union and apply. And the highest one that you can get right now, if you're just in the 600s, I'm in the 800 club. If you're just in the 600s, right now you can still get a 9%. 9%, I'm telling you, is better than right now, all day long, than 25.99% interest.
Mm-hmm. And just to speak on that, one y'all, he not lying, because I actually have a credit union credit card and I have a bank credit card as well. And he's not lying about those interest rates. My bank credit card is definitely at a 22% on cashback advances, and I believe it's like 17% every month. But my credit union is like 4 to 5, right? It's just it's crazy the level of interest. And so when you start paying down bills and you start looking at, for people who are looking like to save money, to cut, not say cut corners, but figure out where you can cut some things, credit cards. So look at like, which one should I pay back first? You can do card balance transfers. So for example, let's say you had a card that had a maximum of like 10,000, right? And you got it at like 9. And then you have another credit card that's at 20, but you haven't really used it. You can literally do a card balance transfer all of that money to another credit card. And now, instead of paying that 22% at a bank, you transfer that debt over to a credit union, lower your interest rate. Now you're giving them less money back. You save more money. That's how that works. That's how you work the financial game. It's about knowing it. So yeah, I don't want to take your thunder. But yeah, I'm like, yeah.
No, but you know what? Look, hey, you're on point. And at the end of the day, I want business owners that look like me to understand this. If you're not in business to make a profit and to enjoy what you're doing, then go ahead and join the other trillion nonprofits that's out there. At least know that you're a nonprofit entity. Then you're operating for profit, but yet you're a nonprofit.
That's funny, right?
Right.
That's funny how that works. So
right.
What do you think can be done, right, from a business perspective and a corporation perspective to kind of reduce or contribute to either helping out the wealth gap or just improving financial literacy as it relates to, us?
So I would challenge every business owner to take out time, and you can just Google which are the top 5 credit cards that yields the best profits. Because I have a Freedom Chase card. I made $358 last month.
Wow.
Because I get 3% back. I get 5% on dining, and I get 3% on all of my other transactions. Not to even mention, if someone's traveling, you get all these points, so you travel for free. So those are the benefits. But let me make sure that I share this. Here's how I've been able to go from a 595 to 807.
Can you break down what those are before you do that? What is a 595 and what's a 907?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Got it. So a 595 is a score derived what is called a FICO score. FICO scores, the big 3, you got Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian. And what it is it determines a score based upon what's in the system. Okay. And based upon your phone or any other accounts that you have, you are derived a score. And that score comes from all of your utilization, your transactions, and how long you've had those cards, how many new lines that you have. But most importantly, the biggest thing is how soon you actually pay those off. Let me explain. There's a cycle. There's a 21-day cycle for all of the card holders to evaluate your activity. It's not 30 days. Because remember, February only has 28 days. So don't wait for your statement to come in to pay it off. I'm on a 6 to 10 day cycle. What that means, clarity. 6 to 10 days, I pay all of my transactions off. Here's something else is how you can build your FICO scores, okay? Is you anyone out there that's getting gas, and if you're paying cash for your gas, you don't get rewards for that. Charge it. Anyone that's in the grocery stores, while you're using your checking or your debit cards, you should be charging that. And then 72 hours, 4 days or 5 days later, pay it off. If you have it already in the account, what you do is you charge it, and then it's reported to Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian, and that's how you can determine or maximize your scores. Again, I went from a 595, which is very, very low. The highest you can get is an 850. I have an 807 is the highest currently.
Let me ask you this. I know you talked about secured and unsecured credit cards a little bit ago, but I don't know if people really understand the purpose of what those types of credit cards are for. Can you explain, like, for example, you talked about, you had a low credit score. So how did that secured credit card help you out?
Yeah. So what I did is when you go into the credit unions or the banks, they're going to calculate whether you're going to get a loan or anything from risk, right? It's called calculated risk. If you're going to that credit union and you're saying to the credit union, I got $500, I'd like to have a secured credit card for this amount. Once they do a background check, other than, if you've done some mischief that perhaps you shouldn't have done, they're going to go ahead and take that $500 and they will secure that. Now you have $500 of a credit limit that you use. Here's what's important about that. Even though it's $500, $200, or $300, it's reported every single month. Now remember, some of the majors don't report it other than if it's in delinquency, it's in collections. You want it to be reported because that calculates your score. That's how your score goes up. So once you secure it, typically you have about 5 to 6 months. Once you're in good standings, you can go back and say, hey, Josh, I want you to take a look at how I've been doing, how my performance is, using this credit card. I now want to apply for unsecured. Here's what's cool about it. That $500 that you paid off, they give you $500 back. They give you unsecured. That unsecured limit that you have is typically 2, 3, or sometimes perhaps 5 times what you started out with.
Yep.
Bro, this is golden. You're getting your money back. Now, instead of it being, let's say, $300 limit, now all of a sudden they're going to say, hey, now you got a $2,000 or $5,000 or $6,000 limit. And it's unsecured because you have shown through time the ability to pay it back.
Yep. And that's true too. Cause I was, with my first credit card I ever got, my limit, I believe, was like 1,500, something small, wasn't crazy. And then as I kind of got older, started, working, paying off some stuff, I got a car, my profile started to grow, my credit profile. So, as that happened, I looked on my credit card statement one day and I was like, what? My limit went up. And they raised my limit. They didn't ask me. They didn't tell me. They just raised my limit. Why? Because I was a good steward of what I was already had access to. And so that was my first time going through that. And it was fine. But it raised my credit score. It went up. Why? Because my debt to income ratio went down because they raised the limit.
That's correct.
So it's a beautiful thing when you take care of your business, you eat and you get rewarded on the back end. So, sometimes I think they do it once a year. I think so. Something like that. They may reevaluate.
What's that? What's that?
Whether they determine if they're going to raise it or not, or, not all the time they do it. Sometimes it takes some time.
So it's 6 months to 12 months is how they evaluate it. Okay. Now the important thing is if you're wanting to perhaps raise it and, get some other opportunities out there, here's what I decided to do. With my score, I decided to apply for other cards just to see what kind of interest rates they were going to give me. And that's when I discovered Capital One, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, Fifth Third, and some of the others are the highest. Mm-hmm. Now, I got the same score, so there's no different risk. Got the same score. And then the credit union was coming in at 50, 60, 68% less. That's crazy, right?
Right.
So I think it's really time for us to reevaluate and fully understand that whole debt to ratio. Now, when we talk about debt to ratio, let me tell you where you actually should be. So the experts say you should be either at 30% or less than 30. Let me go ahead and give you all the specifics. Let me give you the skinny. Right now, I'm looking at my report, my statement, I'm at 8%. You should be between 8 and 10%. If you're at 8 and 10%, here's what happens. Now, once you have shown the ability to pay it back, it gets out to the universe. Now, everyone wants you to have their card. So what you do is you have them to compete to get your business. So they send you an email and you call them. Don't go ahead and apply on the email. Talk to someone and say, hey, Josh, I noticed I got something in the mail. You all got something going on. I see right now you got an introductory at 17% for 18 months. Do you have any specials for the ones that have Stellar credit? Because I want you to go back in and see I'm not the ordinary, person. I'm in the 800 club. So if you got something else going on, please tell me. What that will do is now they have to compete instead of you just accepting whatever the offers that they're putting out there. Because remember, the offers they're putting out there, that's for everyone.
That's not their best.
Exactly. So what you got to do is you got to say, no, you don't know me. You put a filler out there, but now let me tell you who I am. I pay all of my bills on time and everything. I also just did something with T-Mobile. T-Mobile were giving phones to all of their new accounts. And the best they could do for me is it give me a credit of 300. I told them I've been with you guys since 1999. This is 2023. I have 2 others that's out there that want my business, which I want to do. At first, the gentleman I talked to, he's like, I'm sorry, Mr. Ware, I see you have been with us. You've been outstanding. Right now, the only promotions we got is we can give you $300 credit. I was like, obviously, I'm not talking to the right guy. Why don't you let me talk to a supervisor. I ended up talking to another supervisor. When it was all said and done, I got a brand new phone and paid absolutely nothing for it.
Wow. All because you opened your mouth.
Yeah, and sometimes you just can't accept whatever's being said at the beginning because they don't have the bandwidth or the power to make those decisions. Say, I want to talk with someone that can make a decision on in my account because I've been with you guys for a long, long time.
I like that. I didn't even know that was a thing. As far as like with those types of companies and negotiate that's pretty cool. Now, do you have any experience with the business credit side of things?
Yes.
And how that journey works for businesses?
So I encourage everyone to have more than one LLC. Let me say that again. I encourage everyone to have more than one LLC. And I also encourage that you put your credit cards in those fictitious names because Here's the reason why. Let's say one of your LLCs is doing a lot better than the other, and all of a sudden it's doing millions of dollars. Guess what? You actually qualify for millions and millions of credit. You don't want to do your personal because your personal is going to ask what your salary is.
Mm-hmm.
Your company might do $2.5 million, but your salary might be only $100,000. You'll only get $100,000 based upon your salary. But if you put it with the LLC, you actually qualify for the $2.5 million.
And the reason why that is, y'all, is because the business is an asset. So
Yes.
now, because your business is an asset, that means you own something that has equity. So when you go to a bank, you can go to a bank and say, hey, I have a business that's worth this. So they know you're good for the loan because credit is a loan. That's all. That's all
That's correct. That, my brother, is called the ROE.
There you go.
Return on equity.
There you go. Return on equity. So when you look at the business credit side of things, right, how would you suggest a business kind of start building that? Because a lot of people are curious about that because, things are different on that side.
Yeah. So the very first thing is you want to make sure that you register your business and make sure that your EIN number and everything, all of that is registered on Sunbiz. And you got to make sure that you also get those credit cards in that. So you got to figure out which one of those tools can better service for you to be able to grow your business. Mm-hmm. And once you start growing your business, don't be afraid to ask your cardholders to give you those increases because you're going to need them. Because things are going to happen in your business. You're going to have ups and downs in your business. You're going to have we just went through COVID, right? You're going to have times when you're not going to be able to make the money, right? But you're going to still need to be operational, right?
Right.
So that's where those business cards come into play. And I do recommend that you don't, if you're in business, you need at least a minimum of at least 4. Let me tell you the reason why.
I agree with that. That is true. Yes.
Okay, you need at least 4 because you want to keep your utilization or your debt to ratio still low. Mm-hmm. Because if you have 1, you maximize it out, your scores go down. Now you owe this one entity too much money. And then it starts telling you, hey, I got to go out here and I got to do other things. And then now it's not about you doing your business. It's about paying this debt, right? Now right. You're losing the whole momentum while you went into business. And it can be rather daunting. It can be kind of frustrating. So by having 4, it buys you enough time and enough window mm-hmm. to come up with a plan to pay these and to leverage them to work that thing out, Josh.
Yeah. And just some personal experience. When you're doing the whole business credit thing, and I'm talking to people who are listening. So when you're building that stuff, the cool thing is, and the reason why he's telling you to put it in your business name. So let's say, God forbid, anything goes wrong. So let's say you don't have, a lot going on. Your business is really new. So typically when you get those credit cards, you're going to back and secure those credit cards with your personal credit. So that's if your business is brand new. So what happens is, let's say you miss some payments on your business credit cards. They only report to your personal credit score if you default on the actual credit card. The reason being is because it's in the entity's name, not yours. So literally your right. worst case scenario is you have to go 3-4 months without paying on this credit card, and then it defaults. Then it hits your personal credit. That's how that works. So that's what they talk about when they talk about the protection of an LLC. That's a real life example of how that can kind of, help you out if, you're dealing with a rough time. For those of y'all.
Hey, Josh, along with that, let me elaborate. Even though when you get married, you plan to be together forever. If you set up these businesses and the credit cards with the LLC, remember, now, once you get married, and let's say you set it up with your name, mm-hmm. your spouse actually gets 50%. But if you set it up with a fictitious name, and then let's say you're sued or you're going through your divorce, guess what? He or she doesn't get any of that.
Mm-hmm. That's real.
Because it's set up with a LLC. It's not just your name. And also one of the reasons why you want to do that LLC, it's about protection, you know. So if you ever sue, it's just within that entity, most
Right.
importantly. But getting back to some credit cards, perhaps you should have in your wallet, and perhaps some of the others that you perhaps should not have. I would say to all of the listeners that's out there, it's a case by case. Every individual may or may not qualify for an American Express or a platinum with Chase. It has to do with your credit standings. So what I would do, if you're reestablishing, you want to do a secured for 3 to 6 months. And then after that, you can go back and say, hey, I want to go ahead and get my money back. And now I want to apply for unsecured. And 99.9% of the times, they will go ahead and do that for you. Now you've kind of built your credit up. But most importantly, what I want to make sure that I underscore, Josh, is getting back to that cycle. The cycle will determine how to maximize your score to no heights beyond imaginable. So me going from a 595 to 807, I understand it. So what I'm saying is anyone that's charging, you only charge what you can afford that you have in your checking accounts. Because you got to know, and you can set it up in your phone, the window of 4, 5, perhaps 6 days later, you're going to pay the entire amount, or you can just leave it at 1 cent. Because you know that 1 cent, it's going to be zero interest. I like doing the 1 cent because it gives me power. I feel like I'm the boss. I'm handling this thing.
Yeah.
So if I owe 3,676 cents, I'll pay the 36.75 and leave that 1 cent there as outstanding.
There you go.
And it just works for me because, you know, at the end of the day, I think it's time, Josh, for us to get a handle of our entire future. And how you do that is you got to do that one day at a time. And each day, at the end of the day, you got to do what your Jay-Z's and all the others that have gone from $1 million of worth to $1 billion. And that is, you got to say time is money. So what I'm going to do is you got to be a lot more intentional, and you got to see what's happening with your finances, and you got to look at your margins, because numbers never, ever lie. And if you're not really good on numbers, find someone that can explain that to you. And once you've done it a couple months, you'll begin to understand how important those numbers are. Because there's only, let me share. There's only 4 models of businesses that's out there. A lot of business owners don't even know this. I'm going to go ahead and share what those 4 models are. Okay. The first model is you got Starbucks, and you have Publix. They operate pretty much the same. There's another company that operates pretty much like them. It's called Chick-fil-A. Josh, when the last time Chick-fil-A say, hey, we got 2 sandwiches for $6, come on in? When the last time they even advertise a BOGO or advertise that, hey, you buy this and you're going to get that free? That's not their model. That's not their model. So their model is you're going to pay 30% more because shopping with them is called a pleasure. That's one model. Now you have another model, which is your Walmart. You're going to be least expensive in the industry. Okay. Whatever you have, your products will cost less than anyone else. Here's how that's a slippery slope for a lot of businesses. They don't have the bandwidth, and they're not as large as Walmart. So you start out being the cheapest, then your supplier go up. You don't adjust your numbers. You're making less and less of a profit, Josh. What happens is you're operating, but now you're making less and less. It went from making 55 cents. Now you're making 15 cents. You're operating, but your margin's not in alignment because you never increase, because you're scared to increase, because you advertise, I'm the cheapest in town.
Right.
So you got to look at which model, when you're setting up your business, you're actually in alignment with. Let me give you another model. You ever heard of a company that's called Popeyes or Church's Chicken?
Yes.
They're guaranteed, when you go to Popeyes and Church's Chicken, guaranteed that you're not going to get the absolute best service, and they're going to be out of something that's on the menu. That's guaranteed, brother. It's guaranteed.
Yeah. You're right about that.
So then you have another model, which may perhaps have too many items on the menu, and that's called McDonald's. One of the reasons why McDonald's did exceptionally well, they made billions and billions of dollars. Once upon a time, we actually had a brother that was the CEO. You know why he got fired?
Tell me.
The reason why he got fired is everyone loves a restaurant that smells new. So they decided to get with all of their franchisees and said, hey, we're going to renovate every single unit. That was when they were prime time. They did quite well. The only problem is you do the renovations, you don't retrain your staff, or you don't change your staff to be in compliance with the new store, your service is done. And that's what happened. It cost that gentleman his job. They lost, ready for this? They lost $12 billion in 1 year.
And it was probably from damages, people not being trained properly, machines
absolutely
misused.
Absolutely.
That's crazy. It's man, it's a game of inches. I tell you, one decision, 12 million.
So you got to go and sit down and figure out which model, because once you figure out which model you have, then you can find out if you're in alignment with the kind of profits. Because I think a lot of people are expecting to make X amount of millions, but the models aren't going to dictate that. So they have to really reevaluate. And you got to reevaluate that every single month, because remember, every business has certain seasons that they're going to do better. Okay? When I first got into real estate, started to do real estate, my first 2 years, I couldn't do no wrong, man. Everybody I called bought a house from me. I was like, man, I don't know why these other realtors having issues. I'm killing the game.
Right.
And then COVID happened. And I didn't do as well. So I had to change my models as far as my clients.
Right.
And you're continuously having to change based upon supply and demand, and finding out which clients need your services and redefining those services and having some clarity. So I went from affordable, everyone that needed assistance, to individuals that had their own money and said, hey, I don't really care about what it costs. Here's what I want. I want a 2 or 3 car garage. I want it to be in this area. So once I made those changes, I'm okay in real estate. But a lot of individuals didn't make any money because the market changed to a seller's market. So that meant that anyone that needed FHA, VA, guess what? They weren't privy of putting a contract in the homes. They were selling these homes as is.
Wow.
So you can't do FHA and you can't do VA because they got to pass the inspection.
Yep.
So that means all of those clients that's going to go through VA or FHA, you can't put a contract in 80% of the homes because they're selling them just as is.
Wow. Didn't even know that. That's crazy. So what I want to do now is transition over to my favorite part of the podcast called the Iconics 10.
Yes, sir.
So I'm going to ask you 10 questions. So give me your best. It's not rapid fire, but it's cool. We're going to have a little fun. So my first question to you
let's go.
is, what would you title this chapter in your life?
The chapter in my life right now is being very appreciative.
I like that.
And being appreciative and knowing my worth.
There you go. Number 2, what superpower would you have?
My superpowers is I can change on a simple dime of changing somebody's trajectory, of them feeling like, man, the world is crashing, and giving them hope, inspiring them, and everyone realizing that liberty and freedom is not a thing, it's a feeling. I know how to make people feel better.
Mhm. I like that. I like that. Now, if money was not an issue, what would you invest in right now?
If money was not an issue at all, currently I would invest in our youth,
I
our
like that.
future CEOs,
I like that.
because they are going to make things better. Because if I plan to live, I hope to live another 40 years, I need for them to understand, game on, right? I need them to make this thing better. So I would invest in the youth.
I like that. I like that. Number 4, if you weren't doing this, what would your other profession be?
Nothing. This is my purpose.
I love
Look,
it.
there's only two periods in one's life. It's when you're born and when you find your purpose. I found mine.
I like that. I like that. Number 5, you can have 5 dinner guests, dead or alive. Who's at your table?
Definitely would have to have Oprah, because I want to ask Oprah, you didn't fit into the model, the mold they thought perhaps someone needed to fit in, and you still was able to make it to the highest pinnacle. I definitely want to have Oprah. Let's see, I'd like to have John Hope Bryant. He's out of Atlanta. It's all about that, talking about equality, equity. I would want President Barack Obama.
Mhm.
I think he's just the coolest
Yeah.
on the planet. I would want to talk with Jay-Z and say, hey, Jay-Z, you went from chains and all that to suits. Can you convey to all of these other up and coming artists that it's not about the chains, it's not about all that. It's about content, it's about intentionality, it's about how you make a difference.
Right. Right. I like that. You got
That's
one more.
important. And I would perhaps, I probably still want to sit down to a gentleman by the name of Cedric Nash and get into his head, because this gentleman worked for a company. They were doing like $350 million, soon to do a half a billion, and they decided to let him go. And he took that, which would feel like people, the business partners just aren't, loyal.
Right.
They're not
Right.
keeping up with the contract. And he started over, and it was like a setback. A setback is a setup for a major comeback.
Mhm.
And the brother was able to gross well over $90 million. I certainly would like to sit down and talk with Cedric Nash. He's just the coolest.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Number 6, your celebrity crush.
It has always been Holly Berry.
Yeah, I love Halle. I ain't gonna lie. Halle bad, boy. Halle a baddie. Number 7, something that the average person would not know about you.
The average person would not know that at age 11, I stuttered, had low self-esteem, and I was illiterate, couldn't read or write.
Wow. Wow. I mean,
Yes,
follow up to that. This has nothing to do with the Conics 10, but how were you able to overcome that? I think that's important to talk about that.
yeah, I think I realized that at age 11, my father divorced my mom, and I remember the conversation vividly as it happened right now. He said, "That's not my son. I have another family, and I'm just gonna get my things and I'm out of here." And I went into a identity crisis for 2 years. From age 11 to 13, I thought I was a problem. I thought I was the reason why my mom and dad was getting a divorce.
Mhm.
There could be a lot of people out there that think that they're the problem. If you're the problem, you can't be Josh. You can't become a problem solver. So what happened is I had a substitute teacher came into my classroom and she said, "You're on a list." And Josh, I'm 62 years of age. All of my teachers back then didn't look like me. She looked just like me. And she said, "I want to change the outcome of your trajectory. You can't read or write based upon what I'm looking at. I'm going to change that." And in a matter of that year, I went from not being able to read or write to learning over 2,200 words and got an award that said the most improved student out of 245 students. And here's what happened. Right next door was a young lady I had a crush on. She didn't pay attention to me until that happened. And I said, I kind of like this feeling. And because of that educator, because of that teacher cared enough about not who I was at that moment, but the potential that was within me, it has evolved to be who I am today. And currently, when I do events, I have close to 500 million in the room. And I'm able to go to Europe. I'm able to say, "Hey, bonjour, comment à la prochaine appétit voir." And if I wanted something, let's say that I wanted at the table, I wanted a napkin, I'm able to say, "S'il vous plaît, aviat." So what happened is you realize when these mentors come into your life that you have extraordinary potential to do extraordinary things. And I've had probably perhaps the best individuals to come into my life.
That's actually, you set me up for my next question. Number 9, name 3 of the most influential people in your life.
The most influential would be my daughter. Okay. My daughter is 20 years of age. She keeps me grounded. No matter how high or how low, I can always go to her and I'm going to get the kind of love. It would be my sister, which is she's 20 years younger than I. We're the best. We're like besties. And all of the ministers and preachers that have come into my life, because let me share this. I'm not bragging when I say this, but I'm just sharing. I've never smoked or drank my entire life, Josh. And it was because of who I hung around. All of those individuals that hung around, they didn't smoke or drink. And so I didn't. It's about intentionality. Yes, sir. Yeah,
that's awesome. I wish I could say the same, but man, I
understand.
Atlanta was crazy in college.
No, I get it. I understand. I get it.
My last question for you, PB&J or grilled cheese? Which one you taking?
Grilled cheese.
Oh, well, I like PB&Js. All right, so I got one more bonus. And then we'll check on up out of here. So just give me one more. What was one of your biggest failures in business and how did you overcome it?
Yeah, my biggest failures in business is I really thought I was going to become a designer. I designed some shirts and some other accessories, and I messed around and showed my properties to the wrong people. They took it and it never happened for me. That's probably my biggest failure, because if you ever come to any of my events, you'll see I like to change in different outfits. That is a dynamic that is really close to me because I love looking and smelling good. So I get a chance to express that way. But I really thought that I was going to become a designer. So it really hurt me when I gave out all of these specifics of my vision, and then someone took that and ran with it.
That's crazy, man. And everybody's experience, well, not everybody, but if you've been in business long enough, you're gonna run into one of those.
Yes.
That's how that works. So that wraps up today's interview. Brother Ware, thank you so much for just dropping knowledge, giving us the credit card game, just bringing down some financial literacy. So thank you so much for that. I appreciate you. And that's it, man. Have a good one, y'all. Peace.
All right, thanks, Josh. We'll see you.
Thank you.